The San Francisco 49ers faced the daunting task of taking a depleted roster into Philadelphia and facing a physical Eagles team. But the 49ers reminded everybody why they always have to be considered a threat in the playoffs. Welcome to Josh's Football Breakdowns, where we let the film tell us what we're seeing. The 49ers start the game with the ball, and after a loss of a yard by Christian McCaffrey on the first play, they face a 2nd down and 11. It makes sense for the Eagles to leave two safeties back deep on 2nd and long, but we're going to be taking a look here at Reed Blankenship. Blankenship drops down to pick up Kyle Juszczyk coming out of the backfield. Now, this has to be some kind of mistake because Zach Bond also goes with him, and meanwhile, Demarcus Robinson is left one-on-one with no safety help to that side, and Brock Purdy spots the mistake. Catch at the 40, and there is nobody there. Makes the safety miss, gets north and south, puts a move on Bond, makes Bond miss a second time, gets north and south again, and then is finally brought down at the 16-yard line. 61-yard gain on the play. Wow. Now, I stopped it here because one thing that would be a factor for the entire game was the wind. With the 49ers threatening, Christian McCaffrey heads to the outside, and once again we see Blankenship dropping down, and this seems to be what he was doing on the first play, defending that area of the field. In fact, he over-pursues to the flat, and this opens up Christian McCaffrey inside on the Texas route. And CMC goes up high to make that catch, and comes down with it. First down, San Francisco. Seriously, look at McCaffrey's vertical on this catch. The 49ers are ready to punch it in, and Tom Brady did a great job of explaining this play on the telecast. They put Juwan Jennings in motion, moving one defender away from Demarcus Robinson, and then they fake the pitch to Christian McCaffrey. Again, a defender has to go with him. They have cleared out the middle of the field for Demarcus Robinson. Brock Purdy is right on the money, and after Pinheiro knocks through the extra point, the 49ers quickly take the lead in this game, 7-0. And of course, they would kick off to the Eagles, who are on the move. And after a handoff to Saquon Barkley, Garrett Wallow moves to fill the hole between the right guard and the center. And this leaves a pretty gaping hole for Saquon to run through, and it's understandable why Deommodore Lenoir would run in to fill this hole. Now look, we're not in the defensive meeting room, so I don't know what Lenoir was asked to do on this play, but it does leave San Francisco vulnerable to the cutback. Well, if you make a mistake like that against Barkley, he will make you pay. Saquon picks up 29 yards, both teams starting the game with explosive plays. The Eagles would look to punch it in with Saquon, and he does gain a few yards here, but he is stopped just short of the goal line, and Philadelphia goes right up to the line of scrimmage. No huddle. They don't give the 49ers time to plan or prepare, and it looks like the Niner defense is preparing for the tush push. But we take a look at Philadelphia's formation. They're not in that formation for the tush push. In fact, they're going to put Dallas Goedert in motion here. And they hand him the football. We've seen the Niners do this with George Kittle. Goddard takes it in for a touchdown. And just like that, the Eagles have marched right down the field and matched San Francisco with a touchdown of their own. But on the extra point, remember, it's windy conditions, and Jake Elliott misses the extra point. So the 49ers still have the lead in this game, 7-6. However, the Eagles would get the ball back, and here they would be facing a 3rd down and 2. They should be able to pick this up, but the right tackle for Philadelphia does not block Sam Akaiwanu, and the fullback who's right in front of him there doesn't pick him up either. Again, this has to be some kind of a mistake. You could leave a defensive end unblocked if you're running away from him, for instance. But here Saquon is just running right up the middle, and Akaiwanu is able to pursue and bring him down for no gain. So now Philly is facing a 4th down and 2. They've got to get to that 46-yard line. From here, it would be a 64-ish yard field goal. Even in this modern era with tremendous kickers on this field in these conditions, forget about it. Now, one thing to notice here on 4th and 2, that's a pretty long 2 yards. It's too far away for a tush-push, so there is nobody in the backfield. This is going to be a passing play. But San Francisco has a plan on defense. They send a big rush with 6 men. They choose to leave no safeties back deep. Now, could this leave the 49ers vulnerable to a deep route? Yeah, sure. The problem with that, of course, is that is a low percentage play, and it's 4th down. If they don't pick it up, then the Eagles would turn the ball back over to the 49ers. So instead, they opt for a lot of shorter routes. Of course, the 49er defense knows this. We see great physical coverage in the middle of the field, and on the outside, we see the corners playing coverage. Upton Stout jumps the route, and the Eagles have to consider themselves very fortunate that Stout didn't take that one to the house. Let's move ahead to the second quarter. Philadelphia is threatening, but the 49ers still lead 7-6. And here the Eagles are facing a 3rd down and 5. And they hand it off to Saquon. Now, why would you hand it off on 3rd and 5? Well, the most obvious reason is you think you can get a 1st down, but you also hand it off on 3rd down if you think you might be going for it on 4th down, which the Eagles are doing here. Remember, we're in windy conditions. Their kicker has already missed an extra point, so that was very forward thinking by Nick Sirianni there. Now facing just a 4th and 2, the Eagles fake the handoff to Saquon Barkley, and again, we see the 49ers put 6 men up at the line of scrimmage. Now when Dallas Goedert leaks out for a pass, Malik Mustafa has to pick him up, and all the receivers for the Eagles on that side of the field have to be covered one-on-one now. Mustafa is in proximity to Goedert, but he peeks into the backfield and loses track of exactly where Dallas is, and it's an easy touchdown for the Philadelphia Eagles. This time Elliott makes the extra point, so Philly takes the lead, going up 13-7. And here we would see what looks like to be just a routine play to George Kittle. We see that right leg kind of extended just a little bit awkwardly there, and he would unfortunately suffer a torn Achilles. Those are long recovery periods, meaning Kittle might miss all or most of next season as well. Wow. Well, this is a big moment in the game. The Eagles have just taken the lead, and you've just lost not only one of your best players, but somebody who's been the heart and soul of this team for almost a decade now. And Kyle Shanahan responds by fighting like hell. He calls a deep shot. For their part, Philly only rushes with 4, keeping several defenders back deep, and this is a tight window that Brock Purdy has to throw this football. But turn your attention to the pocket. He is already winding up. Watch Brock Purdy fit this football in between 3 defenders. Catch, outruns the safety, 50, 45, 40, fights off the tackler, 30, 25, and brought down just outside the 25 at the 26-yard line, a gain of 45 yards on the play. Wow. The biggest difference to me from last week is that this week Brock Purdy had time to throw this football. The offensive line played great. A few plays later, the 49ers would be facing a 3rd down and 2, and Christian McCaffrey trips and is stopped for no gain, bringing up a 4th and 2, and the 49ers sent the offense back out onto the field. And as they were doing this, the more and more I thought about it, the more I didn't quite like it, and Kyle Shanahan agreed and ultimately called a timeout and decided to kick the field goal instead. And I think that was a good decision. It's still early in this game. It looks like it's going to be a bit more defensive, a bit more low scoring, especially in these conditions. And so Kyle Shanahan sends the field goal unit out to attempt to kick. Now, Pinheiro is going to have to make a kick in windy conditions, but watch this football. He doesn't kick it way up high like we're used to seeing him do. Instead, he drives it through the wind. The wind, you'll see it move the football a little bit, but less than it would have had he, kicked it like we normally see it. So the kick is good, and the 49ers stay close to Philly in this game, 10-13. And San Francisco would get the ball back, taking over with 1:51 seconds left and one timeout. Plenty of time to get some points before the end of the half. Now they are facing a 3rd down and 11 here. So San Francisco sends DeMarcus Robinson deep. The corner gets turned around, and when he does, that allows Robinson to work his way back to the sticks. And turn your attention to the pocket. Ordinarily, we would see that this football is already in the air right now. Brock Purdy is great at these anticipation throws, but here he hasn't thrown it yet. He's just a little bit late, I think, but the defender is burned so badly on this play that it doesn't matter. The play is still a success for San Francisco. Now, after this play, we don't have footage of this, but Kendrick Bourne was having trouble getting lined up in the right position, and the 49ers were forced to use their final timeout early, so they're not able to save it for their field goal, and this would be significant later on in this drive. A few plays later, the 49ers would again be facing 3rd and long, a 3rd and 10 this time, so Shanahan knows he's going to have to call some longer developing routes. So the 49ers use a few tricks here to give their offensive line a little bit of extra time. Colton McKivitz hits the nose tackle before peeling off to pick up the defensive end. And he's able to take the time to do this because Jake Tonjes is hitting the defensive end before he heads out on a pass route. Now, as it turns out, Philly would only rush with 3. They had the back end well covered defensively, but keep your eye on Jake Tonjes. He keeps working, and Brock Purdy finds him and gets him the football, and it's a 1st down for the 49ers, and the drive continues. Now, it's a running clock, but take a look. There's 46 seconds left, plenty of time to move downfield. You don't even have to spike it here necessarily. But the fact remains they are out of timeouts, and the 49ers need to be aware of that. Now, let's take a look at this formation. 3 receivers, a tight end, and a running back, with 2 receivers to the right, a tight end to the right, and a running back to the left. Brock Purdy, with time ticking in his head, quickly takes an underneath throw to McCaffrey inbound, so the clock will run, and he's short of the line to gain. So now it's 2nd and 5. What do you do here? Do you spike the football to stop the clock? That would bring up a 3rd and 5. You kind of don't want to use a down to do that. It's a little bit tricky. Brock Purdy makes the decision to get them up to the line quickly and call another play. But now, take a look at this. They have changed the formation. They still have the same personnel out there, right? So 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a running back. But now they have 2 wides to the left, a tight end to the right, and a running back to the right. They have changed their formation. That took them longer to get lined up. And so by the time Brock Purdy throws this football away, now there's only 8 seconds left in the game. That was a little bit mismanaged by Brock Purdy. The 49ers do cook something up to try to make something of this. They send all of their receivers deep, and of course the defense doesn't want to get burned by a long bonehead touchdown at the end of the half, so they make sure their defenders go with those deep routes, and the theory is that Brock Purdy should then just be able to run behind them and get to the sideline. Nevertheless, this is going to be more difficult in practice than it is in theory, because these 2 defenders are going to make sure Brock Purdy gets stopped in bounds. If I were Brock, I probably just would have headed straight for Trent Williams and tried to get out of bounds there. Instead, Brock dances a little bit, and now he's got to get to the sideline with just seconds left. He's heading backwards. He cannot go out of bounds backwards, or the clock will run. The clock only stops if you are going forward when you go out of bounds. Brock Purdy does get forward, but fumbles the football, And when the ball is fumbled out of bounds with a running clock like this at the end of either half, there is a 10-second runoff. This is to prevent players from intentionally fumbling out of bounds to stop the clock, a rule that makes sense. So they come up empty-handed, and the score at halftime remains San Francisco 10, Philadelphia 13. So things don't go exactly according to plan at the end of the half there, but the 49ers still very comfortably in range of Philadelphia, trailing just 10-13 at the half. Well, folks, it takes a long time to make a video like this. If you could give me just 2 seconds of your time and hit that like button, I would really appreciate it. If you like what you see here, please hit subscribe. If you want to be notified anytime a video goes live, hit that notification bell. And if you really want to take a deep dive into this stuff, folks, we have a Patreon page. There is a link in the description. I would love to see you guys over there. All right, let's get right back into the game. Now remember, San Francisco started the game with that 61-yard pass play, but that means they were on offense. So the Eagles will get the ball to start the second half. And one thing the 49ers have had a bit of an issue with here and there during the season was stopping the run. We have guys like Bryce Huff that were brought in to be elite pass rushers opposite of Nick Bosa, but due to injuries to the defensive line, Huff has been pressed into service sometimes as a run stopper. Well, here he uses one of his best pass rushing attributes, speed. He puts a move on the left tackle before cutting back to the inside and stuffing the run. A great play on 2nd and 2 to hold Saquon to no gain, and now Philadelphia is faced with 3rd down and 2. Again, a pretty manageable down and distance. But sometimes the ball is just going to bounce your way or not your way, depending on how you look at it. Saquon drops this pass, and the 49ers force a 3 and out to open the second half. A great start. But then immediately we see a mistake by the special teams. Sky Moore fair catches this football at the 5-yard line. He had an issue with this earlier in the season. It was corrected, but here he does it again during the playoffs, and this is absolutely inexcusable. You have got to let this thing bounce into the end zone for a touchback. Now the 49ers have to start the first drive of the third quarter backed up. And here we see a good play from Brock Purdy. He knows he can't just hang out in the end zone, so when the defense locks everybody up, he takes the rushing lane and gains a few yards, getting the 49ers out from under the shadow of their own goalpost. All right, now I'm going to stop it here and put in a little inset of Brock Purdy in the pocket there. The reason I did this is because we can see Demarcus Robinson heading for the sideline. Again, ordinarily, this ball should be out by now. Brock Purdy is a great anticipation thrower. Instead, watch his feet here. He takes a little bit of an extra hop first, and then the ball comes out late. Robinson still makes a great catch, and it's a first down for the 49ers. Okay, this is just a few plays later, and again, this is another play that Tom Brady just did a great job of explaining on the telecast. Like we looked at earlier, the Eagles again line up with 2 safeties back deep, and again, they drop one down to pick up the running back coming out of the backfield. And once again, this leaves a receiver, Juwan Jennings, this time one-on-one, open to the middle of the field with no safety help to that side. But Brock Purdy, for some reason, is reading the other side of the field. The ball comes out late, and the pass is intercepted by Philadelphia. Wow. Late in the third quarter, the Eagles would tack on another field goal, extending their lead over San Francisco 16-10. So how do you get going again if you're San Francisco? Well, they start out by faking the handoff to Christian McCaffrey, and this causes the linebackers to react. Well, by now they've got to scramble to get back in position, and when McCaffrey runs an even longer route than they were expecting, they've got to scramble again. They get pretty deep here. In fact, Kyle Shanahan has called a trio of deep routes on this play. So to make sure Brock Purdy gets the time he needs, they do some things to assist the offensive line once again. They leave Kyle Juszczyk in to help with pass protection. But after that, he goes out for a pass route of his own. And by this time, he has been completely forgotten about by the Eagles defense. Catch gets north and south. Juszczyk makes a man miss and then trucks the defender and picks up an extra 3 yards. Wow. And with this, we have reached the end of the third quarter, and in between quarters, there's a much longer time period, even longer than a timeout, for the 49ers to draw up a trick play. They start out by handing it to Sky Moore on the jet sweep, and the defense reacts. In addition to this, Kendrick Bourne also runs to that side of the field. So when we take a look here, we're going to see Philadelphia only has 2 defenders left to cover the right side of the field. Now Moore pitches it to Jauan Jennings, and here we see those same 2 defenders mesmerized by Jauan Jennings running with the football and completely ignoring Christian McCaffrey wide open down the field. Touchdown 49ers. Oh my goodness, what a play. Now, of course, they didn't just draw that play up. They've been practicing it for months, Brock Purdy said after the game, but it did give them a chance to discuss the details of it and a few things like, don't throw this football unless Christian McCaffrey is wide open, which he was. But here at the end, we see the defensive tackle launches himself into Jauan Jennings, hits him late and up high around the head and neck area. All are illegal. And Jauan Jennings, throwing the football, has all the rights and protections as a quarterback in this situation. So Philadelphia would be penalized roughing the passer. So they would get to attempt the extra point from closer than they normally do because of the penalty. And this is a big factor in a game like this where weather is impacting these kicks, and we've already seen one missed extra point. Eddie Pinheiro is able to knock through a chip shot, and again, it gives the 49ers the lead, 17-16. And San Francisco would get the ball back. Now, earlier in the game, we looked at Christian McCaffrey running the Texas route. Here, the 49ers do something similar with Kyle Juszczyk, except instead of running a traditional Texas route like this, he goes kind of directly to the sideline and then directly back in. Juszczyk has stepped up big time in the absence of George Kittle, and the defense keeps an eye on him here. But this might open up Jake Tonjes in behind him, and that's where Brock Purdy is looking. And Tonjes appears to have a step on Quinyon Mitchell. The truth, though, is that Mitchell definitely has the speed to keep up with Tonjes. It's going to be easier for Mitchell to play a trail technique against Tonjes like this than it would be against, say, for example, George Kittle. Tonjes seems to misjudge the flight of the football in the air, and the pass is intercepted by Philadelphia. Oh, wow. At the end of the day, it was just tight coverage, and Brock Purdy probably should not have thrown this football. Philadelphia would capitalize on the turnover, moving just outside of the red zone. But on third down, the 49er defense isn't going to give up anything easy to the end zone, and with the pass rush closing in on Jalen Hurts, he has to take the underneath throw to Will Shipley, who comes up short of the first down. At this point, there is 8 minutes left in the game, and this brings up a big 4th down and 4. The Eagles trail by 1, 17-16. So what should they do here? Should they go for it on 4th down, or should they settle for the field goal? Earlier in the game, they went for it, and that's fine to be aggressive. You can do whatever you want during the game as long as at the end of the game, you have the lead on the scoreboard. So at some point, you have to take that lead, right? Sirianni agrees, and he sends out the field goal unit, and I think this is the correct decision. I know it's difficult kicking conditions, but they're kind of right there. It's a close field goal, and Jake Elliott knocks it through, and the Eagles regain the lead. going up on San Francisco 19-17. Now, the 49ers take over with 7:55 to go in the game. Brock Purdy has not necessarily played great to this point, but great players aren't always great. They're just great when they have to be. And Kyle starts him off with an easy one, calling the same play for Kyle Juszczyk, going to the outside and then immediately back to the inside. Now, it's only a gain of 5 yards, but it's a great way to start the drive. You get ahead of the chains, you get your quarterback an easy one, and you go from there. The offensive line has been good, but here when they collapse, Brock Purdy, again, knows he can't take a sack, stays calm, and takes the lane in front of him in the middle of the pocket and fights and gets the first down. Jordan Davis swipes at the football. Purdy runs through an arm tackle, bounces off a defender, and gets the first down. Philadelphia did not make too many adjustments to their defense during this game, and the 49ers began to get comfortable with it. Once again, they start out with 2 safeties back deep, but again, we see one drop down to pick up the running back coming out of the backfield, leaving Demarcus Robinson open one-on-one with no safety help to that side of the field. And again, Brock Purdy spots it. Just under 6 minutes here, still plenty of time. Time isn't really a factor, but Philadelphia also knows that the 49ers do need to score. They need to make these downs count, and Christian McCaffrey has only been averaging 3.2 yards per carry at this point. This is probably a passing situation, and the defense knows that. They can pin their ears back and just kind of tee off on the quarterback. They don't really have to worry about defending the run. And Kyle Shanahan is just sort of great at sensing that moment and choosing that time to make the perfect call of the screen pass. The 49ers take a little more time off the clock, and just when you least expect it, they hand it to Christian McCaffrey, who hurts you for a big gain, 10 yards on the play, and more time runs off the clock. Much maligned earlier in the season, watch Jake Brendel block 2 defenders on one play. .348 to go now, and on 1st and goal, the 49ers go back to that same play with Kyle Juszczyk going to the outside and then back to the inside, but we can see that this time there's a problem. There's a defender lurking right there, so Brock Purdy throws this football away from the defender. Wow, what a pass from Brock Purdy. What a great catch by Kyle Juszczyk as well. On 2nd and goal, they fake it to McCaffrey, but we see a terrific pass breakup from Cooper DeJean. 3rd and goal now, and this is absolutely pivotal. Yes, the 49ers could take the lead with a field goal, but a touchdown means that Philadelphia would have to score a touchdown in response. So the 49ers would really like to get this thing into the end zone. And Brock Purdy starts out taking a look to his right. Nobody is open, but Brock stays calm, climbs the pocket, and wouldn't you know it, the 49ers go back to that same play one last time, but this time it's to Christian McCaffrey. Touchdown 49ers, and that is a huge score with just 2 minutes 54 seconds left in the game. Now, I thought that the 49ers would go for 2 here. If you go for 2 and get it, it makes the score 25-19. Philly can make it 26-25 with a touchdown and an extra point, but then you can win the game with a field goal. If you just kick the extra point, Philly can go for 2, and then the best you can do is tie. Well, in any event, Shanahan decides to kick the extra point, and then Pinheiro misses, making the whole thing academic. So San Francisco leads 23-19, and Philly still needs a touchdown or they will lose this game. And Philadelphia is facing that prospect right now up against a 4th down and 5. But the Eagles also had a concept that they would return to multiple times throughout this game, getting Dallas Goedert matched up against Malik Mustafa. It's tight coverage, but it's an accurate throw from Hurts and a 1st down for the Eagles. Now that was close, but Philadelphia keeps moving the football. And this was a pivotal moment. The Eagles have reached the red zone and have a 1st down and 10. Jalen Hurts seems to have a lane in front of him with a lot of green grass to work with, but Keon White is able to get off his block and bring Hurts down for a sack. So now instead of a huge play, it turns out to be 2nd down and 11. And the pass protection seems pretty good to my eye here, but Jalen Hurts leaves the pocket early. He bails and is then forced to throw this football away, bringing up 3rd down and 11. On 3rd down, Philadelphia has Devonta Smith matched up against Upton Stout, and Stout appears to have good leverage to the inside. But notice Devonta Smith doesn't run in a straight line. Instead, he widens, forcing Stout to widen with him, allowing Smith to cut to the inside and give himself separation. But the ball comes out high, tipped, and nearly intercepted by San Francisco. Philadelphia very fortunate there. All right, 4th down and 11. This is it. This is it. This is for all the marbles right here. It's 4th and long, and the 49ers once again put 6 men up at the line of scrimmage, but this time they have Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow drop out. Now they're only rushing with 4, but the whole purpose of this is to get Philadelphia to try to set up their blocks one-on-one beforehand or address that potential pass rush in some way, and it worked. Philadelphia leaves Saquon Barkley in to help with pass protection, meaning they will only have 4 receivers in the pattern. San Francisco now has the luxury of 7 defenders back deep. Hurts has to throw into a crowd. The ball is tipped up and falls incomplete. San Francisco wins the game. And it's Eric Kendricks who is the hero, next man up for the 49ers. Wow. Wow, what a game. What an unbelievable task to come on the road in Philadelphia against a physical team with a depleted roster like this and get the job done. A very impressive win from the San Francisco 49ers, and just can't say enough about the defense, especially Eric Kendricks and Garrett Wallow, 2 guys that were pressed into service and came up big in this game. And on the offensive side of the ball, how about the play of Brock Purdy? You know, he didn't really have a great game. Threw a couple of bad interceptions, had that weird play at the end of the half where he couldn't get out of bounds in time. But when it mattered most, when the game was on the line, he came up clutch, leading that key drive in the 4th quarter, throwing the touchdown pass to CMC with just over 2 minutes to go in the game. That was huge. And who was Brock Purdy throwing the football to all day long? Because there was no Ricky Purcell in this game, of course. Well, Demarcus Robinson stepped up big time, had that big 61-yard catch on the first pass play of the game, finishes with 111 yards receiving. And on the other side, Jawan Jennings, you know, he finishes with 45 yards. That all came on one catch, that big 45-yard reception. Again, when the team kind of needed it, you know, in a moment where their psyche might have taken a hit, he comes up huge with a monster play. And he did have one more key play in this game, of course, 29 yards in the passing game, throwing that big touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey, also in the fourth quarter, Jawan Jennings. And let's talk about Christian McCaffrey, because he only had 48 yards on the ground, but did he come up huge in the receiving game? 66 yards, multiple touchdowns. That guy is just incredible, jack of all trades. You know, absolutely unbelievable what CMC brings each and every week to the San Francisco 49ers. And of course, we have to talk about George Kittle. And man, what a devastating injury. You just feel so bad for that guy. You know, and he is the heartbeat and the pulse of this team. Kittle is just synonymous with the San Francisco 49ers at that point. We don't know about his recovery or how long it will take. We just wish him the best and hope that he gets healthy, because, you know, at some point he will return to the team and it's going to be a huge moment. But for now, for the 49ers plans this year, it will have to be next man up. As we've seen all season long, Jake Tonjes will step into that role, and I'm sure he'll do a great job. All right, folks, if you have taken the time to sign up for the Patreon page, I can't thank you enough. Your support allows me to take the time to do these videos right, to give you the quality that you deserve. You humble me and you honor me. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I truly appreciate it. All right, well, what's next for the San Francisco 49ers? Well, the NFC West produced 3 teams that each had at least 12 wins or more this season, an absolutely unbelievable feat in the NFL. And all 3 of those teams will move on to the divisional round of the playoffs. The Seahawks, of course, had a first round bye. The LA Rams beat the Carolina Panthers in a tough game down in Charlotte, and they will play the Chicago Bears. The San Francisco 49ers, meanwhile, travel to Seattle. They'll have to go on the road on a short week, but, you know, they're sort of used to getting the short end of the stick like that. Maybe a little bit bad luck for Seattle that they have to play the same team twice back to back, but for the 49ers, this is a huge opportunity. So we will see. I'm sure it will be a great game. The NFC West absolutely representing. I would not be surprised to see 2 NFC West teams in the NFC Championship game. This division has completely taken over the conference, and we'll see if they can make it all the way. You know, the road to the Super Bowl does go through Seattle, so that's where San Francisco will travel next. And will Fred Warner be playing in that game? Wouldn't that be something? Well, I don't know, and I don't know what's going to happen in that game, but you know we are going to be here to break down the film, and I will see you guys then.